Morning, everybody. Oops, forgot to close the door. Find your comfortable seat. Just to start with a little opening thoughtfulness. So take about 5 breaths as usual, hands wherever they're comfortable, just to bring you into the room, onto the mat, in the present moment. We did a lot of mudra work last week, and if one of the mudras spoke to you, recruit it. Otherwise, it's all about being comfortable in order to be present. And we're just going to take 5 breaths. Your breaths, not my breath, even if I instruct you to do it in a certain way. Even if I ask you to do it deeply and you're not ready, breathe to your depth. And we'll do about 2 more breaths, all to get the vibration down, to bring everything right here. So it feels like we are moving into a different area regarding the pandemic and how it's changed our lives. Can't help but think about it all the time. And I'm always in awe of the teachings from yoga and meditation that can be used and applied to our everyday life. And it occurred to me, there's this concept, a lot of these things are concepts to think about, of the difference between being and doing. And in yoga, they actually attribute doing to the upper body, which makes sense, doing with your hands, and being to the lower body. And that was a big aha moment for me when it was first introduced to me 25 years ago. Anyway, it never gets old. None of this stuff gets old. And it occurred to me that, or it feels to me like this pandemic, in its most positive aspect, is a correction, which makes it more palpable. And having to close everything down to limit our outside world takes the emphasis away from doing and kind of forces us to pay attention to what it means to be. So it's an opportunity, and I'm introducing this today because we're going to do, part of the practice is going to be using blocks, which for me is about surrender. I like to teach the idea of surrender using blocks, but perhaps you can look a little deeply into your experience and see if that hasn't been a silver lining for you, learning that differentiation, because our culture is such a doing, external, making things happen culture. And that's fine if you're also aware of the flip side of it, which is being and everything that that implies. So we're going to take another 5 breaths. Let's do this one again, just because it helps to bring a lot of things back home to the center, because it's the natural path of the breath. So as we're breathing, and it also, interestingly enough, you have one hand on doing and one hand on being. So inhale to the hand that's on your heart, lungs, exhale from the hand that's on your tummy. And that's simple. No deep exploration or meaning other than allowing the natural path of the breath, because we want to allow all our natural functions. Have 3 more breaths. Just inhale to the hand that's on your heart and lungs. Exhale from the hand that's on your tummy. You can inhale to being, and you can exhale I'm sorry, you can inhale to doing and you can exhale from being. In fact, let's do 3 more breaths like that. 2, and 1. And just let it go. So we're going to start using one block. I'm going to move my bolster. Take one block horizontally, and we're going to sit on it. Bring soles of the feet together. And you don't have to jam your feet close to your body. I want to make this really comfortable and doable. But I do want you to take a moment with fingertips on the floor to just repeat. So patterns are created through repetition. So the pattern of being aware of your pelvic floor, the effortless rise of the spine and the crown of the head lifting away is just creating a healthy pattern. And as we breathe with that visual in mind, slowly, and it should be a little easier than if you're sitting on the floor, you're going to fold forward from the tailbone with a long spine. Once you get out to your edge, if keeping a long spine creates too much tension or stress, then you can fold forward. So we're going to take 5 breaths here, pulling the tummy in, inhaling and exhaling. And every time you do pull your tummy in a way, you're reinforcing that idea of being, because lower body is being, and the center of the body has its own meaning, relevance, and importance. And when you pay attention to all of that, inhaling and exhaling, then take a little walk over to the right. All you're doing is having a different conversation. So if you're having the conversation, walk back to the center of contacting your center. It's just drawing attention to that part of the body or that concept. And back to the center. Fold forward one more time. You can go a little deeper using your breath and pulling your tummy in. And when we slow these practices down, you can actually take a little time to consider some of these ideas. You're going to take left hand to right knee, twisting to your edge, using your abdominals, using your breath, pulling your tummy in, and take it over to the other side. Same thing. Use the breath, pull the tummy in on the exhale. Nice. So when we come back to the center, keep your fingertips on the floor. Take a little walk over to the right, bring the left arm up. This isn't that intense of a side bend, and I'm doing it intentionally so that we can be gentle and kind to that edge. And use the breath and lengthen through those fingertips. Bringing it back to the center and over to the other side. All sorts of signals may be coming at you, particularly from the right side. Pay attention. Inhaling, exhaling. And paying attention is actually an act of being. It forces you to go in and pay attention to where signals are coming from rather than being pulled away and out. Simple. So we're going to come off the block. No. Oh, yes, we're going to come off the block. And you can stay in Baddha Konasana, but you're going to take your 2 blocks. I'm going to give you a minute to do this. Place one horizontal and place the other vertical, like this. You can stay in soles of the feet together, Baddha Konasana, if that's comfortable for you, or you can straighten your legs, or you can bend your knees. I'm going to stay in Baddha Konasana. So the first block, the horizontal block, should be right at that place that we're always referring to as the middle to upper back. And in a way, if you put it too low, you'll know, because it'll be very uncomfortable. Well, most of you guys have done this before. So find your sweet spot. And I'm using those words intentionally because I want this to feel sweet. I don't want this to be painful, annoying. So I'm going to give you guys time to find that. And bring your palms or your hands out to the side with your palms facing up. Normally I'd be able to adjust you to get those blades to tuck under. So as we stay here for 10 breaths, you might actually feel those muscles relaxing and softening, and you might actually not even have to think about it too much, because your blades will just naturally want to slide down. So that's kind of where we're trying to go. So we're going to be here for 10 breaths. And as I said earlier, I use this to introduce the idea of surrender. And we talked about surrender last week too. It's often a lesson because we have a misconception of what surrender really is. It's not a giving up. It's not a succumbing. It's actually an embracing of what is, especially at this moment where we're safe. So as you're breathing on these blocks and you're thinking about softening to them, what you're softening are your muscles that usually hold your bones hostage. And if you do send your attention there, which is an act of being, you might actually feel them softening, and you might actually feel a different reaction to the block. So initially it might have been a little jarring, and it perhaps could get to the point that you don't even know it's there. So after the next breath, we're going to take this a step further, and of course it's always your choice. You're going to bring the arms up and hold on to the block that's underneath your head, keeping your elbows in line with your armpits. It does up the ante a little bit. So breathe into that. Be with it. And if it is a little uncomfortable, think again about softening and surrendering. Just surrendering to the shape that the blocks are allowing your body to make. And one more breath. Nice. So carefully and slowly come off the blocks. If you're in Baddha Konasana, stay in Baddha Konasana, soles of the feet together. If you need to come back into it, please do. And again, you want it to be a safe distance, a long distance from your body, so that you can fold forward again. A little harder when you're not sitting on the block, but all the same actions are required. And take a nice long spine to come up. Another twist. You can never do too many twists. Always using your breath and telling your shoulders they're not invited to the party, so they don't have to do anything. Other side. One more in Baddha Konasana. We're going to take this block, your choice. You can either put it between your feet like this, or you can put it underneath your feet. This clearly is harder. So I'm going to choose the harder one. But you don't have to have that block and your feet that close to your body, which might make it a little easier and more interesting. And we're going to take a fold. And when you're doing these Baddha Konasanas, if you can let the knees just fall, so another act of surrender, just let them take advantage of gravity, and always send your attention to your shoulders and make sure they're not like this. But if they insist, you got to let them be, right? Until we do something to give them another option. And bring it up. You're going to come off the block. And we didn't do a forward bend. I think we're going to skip that. Take the block. So we're going to sit in this pose if that's available to you. If not, sit in a seat or on a chair. That makes this doable. And I guess you can also sit on it a little higher. That's really uncomfortable, but you can also sit on blankets. You can sit on a pillow. Oh. 1 second, guys. I think Dina's having a problem.
Okay. Thank you.
Here's where the strap comes in. So hopefully you all have straps. I know Dennis doesn't. So have something that can accommodate this. So if you do have a strap and you literally put the buckles together like this and fold it in half, this is generally a pretty good middle of the road length. If it's too short for you, whatever you're using, make it longer. Let me demonstrate for those who aren't familiar with this one. So we're going to bring this strap behind us and in front. Not everybody can do this without bending the elbows, so don't hesitate to bend the elbows. Just make sure you bend both the same. So we're going to do 5 of these. If this is the first time you're doing it, experiment, but please bend your elbows, right? So this is going to be 4. And 3. And 2. If you're feeling this in your pecs or in the front of your shoulders, that's exactly what we're trying to do. And this is the last one. You can take the same strap behind us. Sorry, guys. I think people are having a problem with power outages because it's like a nor'easter out there, and their video stops, and then I have to readmit them. So with the strap behind your back, you're going to hold it with your palms facing forward. This is harder. Don't be surprised. So if you have to bend your elbows, bend them both the same to bring it forward. Strap looks like this, intentional, and then we're going to bring it back. So we're going to do 5. And if you want to add the breath to it, you can inhale as the strap comes over your head and exhale to bring it back. So you can inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. I lost count. Let's do 3 for those who might be joining us for the second or third time. Sorry. And that, I think, was 2. And let's do 1 more for good measure. Okay, so I'm going to give everybody a chance to get into their tabletop to do some cats and cows because everybody's having this problem. I'm just going to pause for a minute. So let's all meet in tabletop. And you know, part of being is knowing a sequence because you don't have to think too much about it. So allow for that while we're doing this. So you're just going to inhale for your cow and exhale for your cat. And hopefully, inhale and exhale. Some of the restoring and some of the surrender that we just experienced in the block work, you can now incorporate and allow the energy generated from that to flow. And then we're going to sit back and come forward. Inhale, sit back on the heels. Exhale, we'll do 4 and 3 and 2. So just be with this. And 1. So actually being is not judging. You know, being is just having the experience. So we're going to stay on our knees. And we're going to do the puppy dogs that we've been doing, but we're going to do them with blocks. So hands on the blocks, they're about shoulder width apart, the blocks, and the hands are just resting on the blocks. You're going to walk your knees back so that your butt is kind of aiming up to the ceiling. And this alone is very different than how we've been doing it once you add the blocks. I want to give you a minute to be with the blocks, right? You may make your shoulder opener a little more intense, so be with that. But as soon as we get to this point where we can't go any further, it feels like traction. Send your attention to the outer edges of the shoulders or the armpits and wrap them to the floor. And keep letting gravity help you settle in. And keep sending your attention to the outer edges of the armpits and wrap them to the floor. And you might find one side is different than the other. You want to try to get them to be the same. It's just a destination. 1 more breath. Let it go and sit back on your heels and let all of that kind of settle in. Mostly tops of the shoulder, the lats, serratus anterior, and we're going to come on back, hands on the blocks, back into that puppy dog, place of traction. Use your breath, feel the gravity, outer edges of the armpits, wrap to the floor, slight bend in the middle to upper back, and breathe. Try to keep your ears lining up with your arms so that it's not on the floor or too far up. By the way, this is a half dog, so you're opening up your shoulders for dogs. 1 more breath. And let it go. So now we're going to take 1 block, horizontal, palms up on either side of the block. Elbows are lining up with the wrists. And again, you might have to adjust your distance. Before we go into this puppy dog, so it's the same thing, I want everybody to take a second to press the outer edges of the armpit, the outer edges of your palms into the block and try to open your palms. And right away, you should
feel a spiral energy. If you don't worry about it because we're going to do this twice. So as you're pressing the block, that's the main action. And opening your palms, sit your hips back a little bit. And if practicing that is occupying your time right now, keep practicing. If you have this, you can actually allow that spiral energy to go all the way through your armpits, find the outer edges of the armpits and wrap them to the floor. Inhaling and exhaling. Let's let that go, sit back, use your breath, enjoy the comfort of a child's pose. And one more time. So this time, you might be able to go a little bit further with the internal actions. It's all internal actions, isometrics. Press the outer edges of the palms into the block and try to open your palms. Sit your hips back. Your hips are literally over your knees. And as you're pressing the block and opening your palms, if that energy is swirling even further up your arm, find the outer edges of the armpit, wrap them to the floor, and then see if you can get a slight bend in the middle to upper back. Inhaling and exhale. So let's let that go. Bring toes together, knees apart. Settle into your frog. I'm going to take left hand in front of the knee and take a twist. Nice, easy twist. So once you start to get the idea that there's no place that you're supposed to go, you can actually be present with what you're in the process of experiencing. And other side. Right elbow in front of left knee, make a fist, and then wrap the left hand around and use your breath. One more breath. Let's find our way to a hang. Before we start using the blocks, stay in your hang. And if you have a limited hang and could use the help of the blocks to rest your hands on, please do that. But don't brace it. Soften your elbows. And while you're here, press the balls of the big toes down, outer edges of the heels apart. That too is an internal action. Internal actions basically support being because they're internal. And the internal action here fires up the outsides of the legs and gets you all the way up here. So you have this whole being experience because it's the lower body. Inhaling and exhaling. And take your time to roll it up. Nice. So let me find a different spot so you can see me. Okay, so you're going to take one block and put it between your legs, pretty high up. And everybody see that's vertical, and this one is horizontal. So that alone changes the whole equation. Again, lower body, being. So the more grounded we are, which is another thing we were talking about last week, reinforcing the root chakra, and this time in history kind of goes without saying that we need to be rooted and we need to learn to be. So as I'm saying all of that, I'm hoping that everybody is kind of making that shift of awareness, lower body. Use your breath. We're just going to make the arms heavy Let me just fix the, so you can see me. Okay. The trials and tribulations of virtual yoga classes. Okay, so we know that we want to use dead weight to get those arms up. So once the arms are up there, just check in with the shoulders and make sure they're sliding down the back. Bring the hands together, interlock the fingers, turn the palms up. So when you turn the palms up, make sure the shoulders are sliding down. Take a glance up to your hands and aim your pinkies towards your face. We already opened up these shoulders, so you should have a lot more range of motion to pull those arms back. Possibly feeling the tops of the arms. Nice. And then we're going to bring those hands in front of the heart. Reach your palms. If you're facing me, feel like you're going to touch me. I'm feeling like I can touch you. The only thing I'm not doing is letting the shoulders come up, right? So don't let them come up. You can soften the knees and tuck all the way down to your tailbone so that you feel that cat-like action. And then we're going to bring those hands behind, clasp the palms together. If you're able to keep the heels of the hands together, do. If you're able to soften the elbows, do. Squeeze between the shoulder blades, open up across your collarbones, and open up your heart, breathing in the front of the lungs. So we're just going to do that a little quicker, 2 more times. Arms come up overhead, interlock the fingers, turn the palms up, give yourself a little back bend, breathing and bending. Hands in front of the heart, round all the way down to your tailbone, tuck chin into the throat, breathe in the back of your lungs. Release the hands, bring them behind the back, clasp the palms together, elbows soft. Breathe in the front of your lungs. 1 more time. Arms come up overhead, interlock the fingers, turn the palms up, slight, safe back bend. Hands in front of the heart. Feel your wings separate. Breathe in the back of your lungs, largest part of the lungs. Hands behind the back, clasp the palms together, elbows stay soft, very important. Inhale, exhale, we're gonna stay here. It's not gonna be easy for me. At least you don't have to do it. And we're gonna take a long spine to fold forward. Stop halfway. If you can keep your hands back there, keep squeezing between the shoulder blades. You can keep your hands back there as you fold forward, do. If not, don't worry about it. Release your fingertips, fold forward. Use your breath and your abdominals. Hang on to those blocks as you walk your fingertips over to the right. Nice stretch through the left side. Walk it back to the center, over to the left. Nice stretch on the right side. You can even lean into it. Coming back, let the arms hang heavy. Keep holding on to those blocks. Very stabilizing, by the way. And with all the uncertainty, it's kind of nice, again, physical manifestation of stability, holding on to these blocks. So 1 more thing. If you have 2 blocks, which I assume all of you have, you're going to put the blocks on the floor next to each other, not touching, a little bit of space. Step onto the blocks. For petite people like me, this is so much fun. So I'm letting you guys set this up and get your bearings. And this time we're just going to do a nice vertebrae by vertebrae rolling down. So what you're going to notice is the floor is further away, which is the point. And if your hands even hit here, you're still going to use the same weight of the head, weight of the arms, pulling your tummy in, and you might notice that you go a little further. It's almost like a trick. Using your breath. So I'm going to take 2 more breaths. If you do go a little bit further, you'll notice how it gives you more space. Lower back, upper hamstrings. If you can get your fingertips on the floor, get them to the floor. If you can't, bend your knees enough so that you can. So this is a real crowd pleaser. Not. With the fingertips on the floor, or where, well, hopefully you're bending your knees enough. Gonna try and straighten your knees or get the butt to go up and the head to go down with your fingertips on the floor until the very last minute. So we're going a little bit further into this hang. And one more. I'm sorry, we're gonna do 2 more. Bend the knees, playing with this relationship, which we've been doing. We're gonna try to keep that relationship as the butt goes up and the head goes down. Fingertips come off the floor very last minute. One more time. Then sit. Hopefully by the 3rd one, we will have gone a little bit further. Nice. You're going to soften those knees in order to roll up safely. Good. And come off the blocks. Maybe you feel your legs a little bit more stable. Okay. Let's put the blocks aside. And go back into your child's pose. And get ready to do our sequence. So shift your hips back and forth to get started. And remind your body that we're going to move. We're going to move through this 5 times with the breath. And we're going to inhale to go forward and through to an upward facing. This might feel really good on your lower back, so let's stay here a second. And you can shift back and forth. Flip over the toes. Downward facing dog. Let's stay here a little bit. Pedal the feet. Also can come up onto your knuckles. Take a little stretch. And we're going to wave it forward. Inhale. Wave it back. Exhale. Down to the knees. Inhale. And back to the heels. So let's do 5 without stopping. Inhale, forward and through. Exhale. Dog. Inhale. Wave it forward. Exhale. Wave it back. Down to your knees. Heart comes forward. Exhale back. Child's pose. This will be 4. Inhale. Upward facing dog. Sorry, yes, downward facing dog. Wave it forward. Wave it back. Down to your knees. Heart stays open. Back to your heels. We have 3. Inhale. Forward and through. Exhale. Downward facing. Transition. Inhale. Plank. Exhale. Back to your dog. Inhale forward and back. Inhale forward and through. Upward facing. Exhale. Inhale to your plank. Fill up your lungs. Exhale. Empty out your tummy. Inhale forward. Exhale back. 1 more. Inhale. Exhale. Forward and through to your plank. Back. Dog. Inhale and exhale. So take a few breaths here. Again, sending your attention to whatever you might have experienced or not. So since we're playing with these blocks, I thought it might be a really good time to add some supported push-ups to keep our arms nice and strong. So it's one thing to stretch and lengthen. It's got to be on, balanced with strengthening. So I'm going to demonstrate this because I want you guys to see what I'm talking about. I think we can keep the blocks here. So we're going to go from a dog to a plank, right? Make sure your hands are right underneath your shoulders. And then you're going to kind of lower yourself down onto these blocks. You should be on your thighs. And your hands should be right underneath your shoulders. Now, everybody's going to have a different range of motion, or everybody can, have their own distance that they can go. It really does depend on the shoulder, wrist being underneath the shoulders and sliding the shoulders down your back. So if you go all the way down, you have to keep checking in with those shoulders, right? So I'm only going to suggest that we do 5. And it might be that some of you need to put the blocks up higher. So if that's the case, readjust. Blocks go in the same place. Yeah, it definitely changes it. So you want to be kind of self-aware. And also, when you're doing these push-ups, make sure that the elbows stay over the wrists. So you don't want them to go back like this. You actually want them to be like that. Okay, so I did send you 5. And if your shoulders are popping up and down, meaning if they're going up to your ears, stop for a minute, make the correction, and then only go as far as you can. So I'm going to give you guys some time on your own to figure this out, or not. You may not even want to do this, but I have to say it's really strengthening these chaturangas. It's a modified supported chaturanga. So let's get rid of the blocks. No, I'm sorry, we're not getting rid of the blocks. We're going to do, I want to practice stepping up and stepping back. So the first thing we're going to do is get into a dog using the blocks. And you'll notice, once you get used to it, it really makes it a lot easier because it gives you a longer upper body, right? So use the blocks, use your breath, use your awareness, pay attention, get long in your upper body, feel your armpits getting really long. So on the right side, we're going to do this 3 times just to practice stepping up, stepping back. And if this is absolutely impossible for you to do, don't do it. Just end up in a half monkey. So if you're able to do this, you're just going to float the right leg up and step it up between the blocks and then step it back. Okay? So we're just going to do that. If you have to do it in stages, you can do it in stages, meaning go here first and then here. Because this is also part of range of motion. I'm going to do one more, and everybody will end up in a half monkey, which is here. Let's keep the blocks and turn them up. So it brings you a little higher, okay? And take a couple of breaths to settle into the pose, square off your hips. And you're going to lift your heel like so you can sit a little deeper into that hip crease, which may actually help you feel the quad of the left leg. So we're kind of hoping that we get there a little bit. And use your abdominals to draw that up. And then you can lower that heel. Okay. And then we're going to sit the hips back for a runner's stretch and flex the right foot. So using the blocks that keep you a little bit higher, you're going to make sure that you lengthen your spine. Inhaling and exhaling, really reaching through that heel, the corner of that right heel. Inhale, exhale. When we come forward, keep those blocks here. And we're going to straighten both knees to what's called a Parsavottanasana. Okay? Take a stretch here. Just check in, make sure your hips are square and reach through the corner of the left heel. So I'm going to do 3 rounds of that little sequence. So we're going to bring it back down to a half monkey. Square off the hips. Lift the heel of the right foot. Sit deeper into that hip crease. Feel that back quad. Drop the heel, sit back into your runner's stretch. Inhaling and exhaling. Going to step it back forward, straighten both knees to Parsavottanasana. Hold. Bring it back down, square off your hips. Heel of the right foot comes up. We sit deeper into that right hip. Going to drop the heel, sitting back to a runner's stretch. Make sure you take a breath or two, unrounding your back. Bring it back. 2 straight knees, Parsavottanasana. You might have to adjust your distance. And then we're going to step it back to the dog. So here's where we start to consider dog home base after we add all these other challenging interludes. So now we have the other side. And again, if you're not comfortable stepping up, stepping back, don't do it. But if you are, just 3-legged dog on the left, step it up, and back to 3-legged, or wherever you're comfortable. You're going to step it up. One more time, step it up, step it back. This time when you step it up, you're going to end up in half monkey. Just take a moment, square off the hips. We're going to go through all the basics, keeping your hands on the blocks, using your breath. Come up onto the balls of the left foot. Sit deeper into the left hip crease. You might feel it more through that right quad. Drop the heel, sit back to your runner's stretch. Make sure you take a couple of breaths with a long spine, unrounding. Bring it forward, straighten both knees. Reach through the corner of the heel of the right foot. So we're going to speed it up for 3 more rounds. So come on down, half monkey. Lift the heel of the left foot, sit deep into that hip. Drop the heel, sit back into your runner's stretch. Straighten your spine for a breath or 2. Come forward, 2 straight knees, fold forward. And bring it down, half monkey, square off your hips. Lift the heel, sit deep into that left hip crease. Stretch through the quad. Drop the heel, sit back to your runner's stretch. Straighten your spine. Come back, 2 straight knees, fold. One more time. Drop the knee, square off the hips, lift the heel, deepen into the hip crease. Drop the heel, reach through the corner of the left heel. Step back to your half monkey, straighten both knees. Then straighten your spine and step back to your dog. And come down to your knees and sit back on your heels. And stay in your child's pose. And when you're ready, turn your toes under, just making your way back to a standing pose, or it's called Uttanasana, mountain pose. And we're only coming here so that we can do a little balance. Feet hips width apart, right underneath your hips, right underneath your pelvis, right underneath your shoulders. Let all of that kind of register. It's your support. You're going to shift the weight onto the left foot and lift the right knee and hold underneath. Okay, so 5 breaths here. And if you're wobbly, pay attention to your foot. Then we're going to take a little side trip to the right. Whoops, whoops, whoops. I have my own challenges here. And then we're going to switch and take a little cross the body. Whoops. Whoa. Okay. Just having a little problem. Shift the weight to the right. Hold on underneath the left. And use your breath for 5. Another side trip to the left. You never want to go too far that you knock yourself completely out of alignment. So it's not really about how far out that knee goes. One more breath. And twist, cross the body, challenge, breathe, attention. Travel through your whole body for this. And then come on back to the center. Here's where I want you to use the block. So it's either going to be like this or like this. It depends on how comfortable you are with your balancing. So, oh, it should be on this side for me. Shift the weight onto the left foot. You're going to draw that right knee up, right? You bring your hands to your heart if that's available, or you can take your arms out to the side. You're going to cross that right knee over the left knee. So I have to lower the block for myself. Sit down and place the right foot on the block so that you can actually sit down and try to square your hips off. Bring your hands to your heart. And you can play around with a lighter touch on the block. This is a kind of prep for eagle pose, which is a pretty challenging balance, right? So just going to stay here, just play with it, no judgment, be with it, and switch. Weight on the right, lift the left knee, cross it over the right, place the foot on the block, sit down, make sure you're centered, arms can be out here, or they can be here. So this is a modification of an eagle pose. Once you get your bearings, see if you can either lightly touch the block or lift the foot off the block. Whoops. No judgment. Nice. Try to end with a success. And let it go. So we have a little more to do with the block. Might go over time. Hope you don't mind. Come down to the mat. I've been wanting to do these. And I kind of waited to have this whole block situation set up. So this is lower abs. You will lie down. Take the block, put it underneath. Let's just take a little time here to kind of back to that surrender idea. With your feet on the floor so that you can actually allow that whole pelvis
to surrender to the block, right? And may take a few breaths. You'll feel it. You just don't want to be clenching. You don't want to be clenching your glutes. You don't want to be clenching your hip flexors, because with a surrendered pelvis, lower back, you're going to lift your legs so they're at a right angle. And take a few breaths here playing with that surrender idea. Lots of attention to your sacrum. So much attention to your sacrum. Because now you're just going to take a very easy, careful lowering of the legs until you feel engagement of your lower abs. So I can't feel for you, so it's up to you to figure that out. And you also recruit pulling your navel in on the exhale, which might help you feel it. So we're just going to stay here until you find it. And if you don't find it right away, don't worry about it. So bring it back to 90 degrees, and then a nice, easy lowering and paying attention. Pulling your tummy in on the exhale. Let's do 4 and 3. And the more you're able to identify those lower abs, the further you might be able to go. And 1 more, I think. But the trick here is to make your legs really heavy. So we've talked about dead weight. Dead weight can be very helpful. For the next 5, you're just going to do the same thing, but just with the left leg, right? And so I want you to play around with all those forces. One is identifying the lower abs, pulling your tummy in. The other is making your leg dead weight, like literally as heavy as can be. And it's almost like inescapable. You can completely identify and then send your attention to your lower abs. I think that's 5. And other side. Again, don't forget to make that leg really heavy. And as you're breathing, pull your tummy in on the exhale. I'm thinking this is 5. Okay, nice. So let's come back here, and last one, circle the knees. Small, really small. So we haven't done these, so I want to be extra careful. 3, lower abs 2, and 1, and of course, reverse. 5, 4, 3, and the more you surrender to the block and the more you pull your tummy in, the less your hip flexors need to work. And draw those knees in towards your chest, so it feels really good on the lower back. And when you bring your feet back down, carefully lift your hips, slide the block out, and come all the way down. Natural curve of the spine. And our favorite twist. Walk your feet a little wider than your hips. Drop your knees over to the left. Take the left heel on top of that right knee. Bring that right arm overhead. Make sure the shoulders stay square, and you contract into your abdominals. Back to the center. Knees to the right. Bring that right arm down. Right heel on left knee. Square your shoulders off. Makes a difference. Pull your tummy in on the exhale or contract into your abdominals. And a very, very, very deep breath. Beautiful. And bring it back to the center. Rock your hips back and forth. Make your way up to a seated position. Comfortable.
Your hands in prayer or Anjali Mudra. Use your breath. We did a lot of stretching. So if you can actually take a minute and send your attention inward and possibly feel more of your body, the warmth, the fluidity, the information. It's all there. It's just very subtle. And it turns out that the more subtle something is, the more powerful it might be. Take thumbs into your eye sockets at the top of your nose, the bridge of your nose. It kind of forces you to look down, but I want everybody to keep your eyes closed, but look up into that third eye. It actually calms your nervous system down. So we're going to take 5 breaths trying to accomplish that. It could feel a little weird, but as we've already known or finding out, weirdness really draws your attention. And that's a good thing. So keep trying to keep your eyes closed, but look up towards your third eye, including your breath. Nice. So now you've sent all the attention to your higher self. Now what could be bad? Thumbs together, hands like wings over your heart, over your lungs, over your vital organs. Perhaps we have a deeper understanding of being. So perhaps that makes us a little more balanced. We're looking to be proficient at doing and to be proficient at being. Hands back to Anjali Mudra, fold forward. And namaste.